My name is Grace Langford, and I never imagined my 35th birthday would be the day I'd watch my family turn on me. The morning starts with quiet joy. The soft clatter of dishes echoes through the kitchen as I slide a tray of roasted vegetables into the oven. The house smells like rosemary and vanilla, and through the open window, I hear wind brushing through the rows of lavender just outside. My hands move instinctively across the counter. I refinished by hand last spring. This house, an old wood frame cottage on Willow Street, was a wreck when I found it 5 years ago. I rebuilt it inch by inch, brick by brick. Now it's the warmest place I know. The dining room glows under soft string lights. I hung last night. The table is set with simple plates and blue linen napkins. It's not grand, just honest. My kind of celebration? I didn't want a party filled with speeches or strangers. Just family. My parents. My brother Jake and my cousin Camilla, who always brings wine that's too expensive and a dress that's too glamorous for a backyard gathering. Still, she's family. "Happy birthday, Gracie," Mom says as she leans in and kisses my cheek. Her hands shake slightly, but she's smiling. "This one's special." She holds out a small silver-wrapped envelope tied with a bright red ribbon. It looks delicate in her hand, like something meant to hold a handwritten card or a gift certificate to the little bookstore on Main. I take it, smile, and nod. Laughter fills the room as Jake pops the champagne cork. Camilla flutters through the kitchen in her cream heels, already halfway through her second glass. Everyone's laughing about old birthday photos, my crooked ponytails, my frosting-covered face at age 6. And for a moment, I believe this is real. A family gathered not just for ritual, but for me. I untie the ribbon slowly, not rushing the moment. The paper peels back with a soft whisper. My fingers slide the document free. Then silence. I read the words once twice. Eviction notice. My chest tightens. I blink, thinking it's some kind of mistake. But the letterhead is unmistakable. The name at the top of the page, mine. The signature at the bottom, my uncle's who I hadn't even spoken to in months. "What is this?" I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. The room stops moving. My dad doesn't meet my eyes. He stares down at his folded hands like he's waiting for the floor to open up beneath him. My mom's smile falters lips, twitching like she might cry or might lie. Jake steps back, his face suddenly unreadable. "And Camilla." She sets her wine glass on the table with a soft clink. Her voice is airy, casual. "We know this isn't the best timing, Grace, but it was time to be honest." "Honest?" I feel the word scrape across my throat. "What do you mean, honest?" Camilla steps forward, her heels silent on the rug. "The property's still under your aunt and uncle's name, technically. On paper, it was never yours." I stare at her. At the girl who used to help me water plants in the summer. At the woman who once cried in this kitchen over a breakup and told me I was the only person who made her feel safe. "You knew I asked." My voice is steady now. "You knew, and you still came here smiling." "I'm just helping the family make a smart decision," she says with a shrug. "This neighborhood's hot right now. It makes sense to sell." My mother takes a step toward me, hands out as if to comfort. "You have 45 days to get everything in order. We'll help you move if you need." I pull my hand away before she can touch me. "I don't need anything." I say I need to know how long this has been going on. Camilla tilts her chin up. Calm cold. 3 months. I've already spoken to a few investors. They're very interested in the lot size. I feel something break open inside me. My heart. My memory. I'm not sure. All I know is the voice that comes out next doesn't shake. "Get out of my house." Grace Jake starts, but I don't let him finish. I set out. One by one, they shuffle out the front door. No one protests, no one apologizes, no one even tries. Only Camilla pauses. She stands in the doorway, one manicured hand resting on the frame. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she says, her eyes glittering. "And you just made me lose all faith in family," I reply. She shrugs. "You're fighting a battle you can't win. Don't let emotion cloud your judgment." Then she's gone. The door clicks shut, and I am alone. The eviction notice is still in my hand. The silver paper lies torn on the floor, the red ribbon curled like a snake beside it. Outside, the lavender sways in the wind. Inside, I sit back down in the chair. I refinished myself last fall. My fingers tremble, but I'm not crying. I'm not yelling. I'm just still. And in that stillness, something stirs. If Camilla thinks I'll give up that easily, then she never knew me at all. The house is quiet now. Too quiet. Even the old floorboards seem to hold their breath. I sit in the armchair by the window, the same one I reupholstered in deep forest green last winter, and let the dusk settle in around me. I hold the original key in my hand, its worn brass edges warmed by my palm. This key opened the front door on the very first day I bought the place. The realtor had warned me, "You sure about this one? It's got character, but it's gonna need work." I remember nodding already, seeing what it could be, not what it was. 5 years ago, this house had rotting floor joists, broken windows, and a garden overtaken by wild thistle. Everyone thought I was crazy. My dad chuckled in that way he did when he thought I was being naive. My mom smiled but didn't ask questions. Jake told me I should rent somewhere nicer. Camilla. She just looked around the place and said, "You're so brave for living in a fixer." But I didn't do it for admiration. I did it because something inside me needed proof that I could build something lasting with my own hands, that I mattered even if no one said so. Every weekend became a ritual, scraping paint from window trim while listening to old jazz replacing floor tiles with a bucket of grout and cracked knees. I'd come home from work covered in dust fingers aching and feel peace. The kind of peace that came from being the only one responsible for something beautiful. They never really saw it. Every time my parents came over, it was about what wasn't done yet. Still working on the kitchen. You haven't called someone for the upstairs plumbing. Never a word about the walls. I stripped bare and insulated myself. Never a nod to the permits I filed, the codes I passed. Just that soft tone people use when they talk to someone who should have chosen something easier. Even when it was done, when the floors gleamed and the air smelled of fresh pine, they never said the words. "You did this. You made something." Jake told me once after Camilla's graduation party, "You're the one who keeps everything going. They just don't say it out loud." He meant it kindly, but silence can wear you down over time. Even silence that's meant as a compliment. And Camilla. God, Camilla. She always found a way in. Not with a hammer or a paintbrush, but with charm, with presence. She'd breeze through the front door with a bottle of sparkling wine and laugh. This house just has such potential. She never asked how much it cost to fix the roof. She never offered to sweep up after the drywall, but she always asked about square footage, resale value, who the neighbors were. I thought I was imagining it. But now I think she saw something I didn't. Not just a home, but a prize. And if I'm honest, this betrayal, it doesn't feel new. It feels like the final verse in a song that's been playing in the background for years. I get up and walk into the hall. My footsteps echo on the wooden floor. The same floor I stripped, sanded, and sealed on a rainy Sunday while the power was out. I pick up the folder where I keep all my permits just to feel the weight of them again. Proof receipts. Work. The eviction notice still sits on the table like a stranger I haven't asked to leave. I stare at it now longer than I did earlier, and something clicks. Camilla didn't just know she planned this. She counted on my silence, counted on me being the capable one, the one who never asks for help, the one who always lets things go. I set the permit file beside the envelope. The contrast is sharp, real versus deception. And for the first time today, I stop feeling sad. I start feeling ready. By morning, the ache behind my eyes had dulled, but the hollow feeling in my chest hadn't moved. I hadn't slept. Not really. I kept replaying the moment I untied the ribbon, the sound of Camilla's voice, the way my mother looked away. So I did what I always do when the ground shifts beneath me. I called Emma. She didn't ask questions, just said, "Give me 30 minutes," and hung up. Now she's sitting at my kitchen table, sleeves rolled up, laptop open, and a stack of her infamous color-coded folders spread between us. The sun hasn't fully broken through the cloud cover outside. The only light in the room comes from the soft glow of the laptop screen and the reflection off my metal kettle as it simmers behind us. Emma has always been the person I call when things go sideways. She was there the day I signed the deed for this house, standing beside me with a manila folder full of backup copies and 3 different kinds of pens, just in case. She's a systems thinker, a detail hawk, and someone who has never once made me feel like I'm too much or not enough. "Okay," she says, adjusting her glasses. "Start from the top." I slide the envelope across the table. She reads the eviction notice, lips tightening as she scans the lines. "This doesn't make sense," she mutters. "They're referencing a land use dispute from 2 years ago. You cleared that." I know, I say quietly, and they said I did unauthorized renovation. But I have permits, every single one. She nods. "Let's find them." We pull out a folder from her bag labeled Grace, House. It's heavy with documents, renovation checklists, scanned PDFs, receipts, copies of structural assessments, and at the bottom, a flash drive. Emma plugs it in and opens a folder dated from the summer I started restoring the second floor. Here, she says, "Permit from the city's Department of Residential Structures. It's got your name, your address, approval for external window work." She clicks open another. Here's the plumbing one. Approved, paid, inspected. I lean in, reading the digital signatures at the bottom of each. Then how did Camilla convince them I did it all illegally? Emma's eyes narrow because she gave them something else. She clicks through a few more folders and pulls up the scanned version of the building survey I submitted last year. Then she opens a blank document and starts a list. "Let's compile everything. All the legal permits you actually filed, all the payments you made. Then we can compare them to whatever she submitted." "I don't have what she submitted," I say, frustrated. "They wouldn't show it to me." Emma doesn't look up. "Then we find it ourselves." She pulls out her phone and opens the county's online development records. "This is public. If there was a new permit or zoning request for your property, it would have to be filed here." She types quickly, and then stops. "Grace," she says slowly, turning the screen toward me. There it is. A pre-demolition zoning variance request. Filed under 317 Willow Street. My address. Filed 2 weeks ago. "Look at the attached document," she says. We scroll through. There's a site plan labeled Willow Redevelopment Proposal. Renderings of a modern 4-unit condo complex. A large parking lot, minimal green space. I recognize the architectural signature. It's from Harper Development Group. Max Harper. I say aloud, the name sitting heavy in my throat. That's Camilla's boyfriend. Emma nods, and that's his company. My stomach turns. We scroll further and find a copy of a complaint letter, filed anonymously, claiming I violated city codes during a rear deck addition. Emma pulls up the actual permit for that work from 2 years ago. It was approved, inspected. "This claim is false," she says, tapping her finger against the screen. My voice is dry. "You think she faked it?" "I think she's working with someone who knows how to make things look real enough to fool people who don't know better." A long silence settles between us. I get up and pour water into a chipped mug. My hands are steady now, surprisingly so. "She wants the house gone." I say more to myself than to Emma. And if she can convince my parents that it's legally compromised, they'll hand it over just to avoid a fight. Emma closes the laptop, then we fight. I sit back down. "We'll need more than permits. We need evidence of fraud. Something that proves they've faked at least one document." Emma opens a clean folder and starts organizing. "We'll find it," she says. "We'll pull every record you've ever filed. We'll request every zoning file tied to Harper Development. We'll track every submission with your name on it." Her voice is sharp now, focused. I feel something begin to tighten inside me. Not panic, not fear, focused direction. Let them hide behind forged forms and carefully edited paperwork. We have the truth. And we're not going anywhere. The Cornerstone Cafe still smelled like cinnamon and old wood, just like it had when we were kids. The booths were worn, the wallpaper curled at the corners, but somehow it felt like the right place to have this conversation. Neutral, familiar. Just enough distance from everything we used to be. Jake arrived late, his coat half-zipped and eyes tired. He gave me a short nod before sliding into the seat across from me. He didn't smile. "Thanks for coming," I said, folding my hands around the coffee mug in front of me. He glanced down. Figured I owed you at least that. We sat in silence for a moment. The clink of dishes behind the counter, a couple chatting at the window, a server called out a name for pickup, all normal things. And yet nothing felt normal. I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila folder, set it gently on the table between us. "What's that?" he asked, even though I think he already knew. "Everything I've filed since I bought the house permits inspections receipts. Emma helped organize it." Jake didn't touch the folder right away. He stared at it like it might burn him. "She said you were renovating without permission," he said slowly. "That it could cause legal issues for the family." I looked at him, steady. "And you believed her?" He rubbed a hand over his face. "I don't know what I believed, Camilla sounded sure. "She always sounds sure," I said, no bitterness in my voice. "Just fact that doesn't make her honest." He finally opened the folder, flipped through the pages, permit approvals, copies of city documents, labeled, stamped, dated. "This is legit," he murmured. "It always was." He let out a breath. I should have asked to see it earlier. I should have talked to you. You didn't. The weight of that hung there. I wasn't trying to punish him. I just wanted him to see it for what it was. He tapped the edge of one document. "So, what's she doing? What's the angle?" "She's working with Max Harper. His company filed pre-demolition plans for my house. They're calling it a redevelopment project. Willow Heights." His eyes widened. "Are you serious?" I nodded. "They used a false complaint to claim I was breaking code. Then they filed plans to build condos on my lot." The kicker. Our parents' names were used to sign off on the land survey without them even realizing it. Jake leaned back, looking like someone had just emptied a bucket of cold water over his head. "You think they forged it?" "I think they did worse than that, and I think you already knew something was off." He didn't answer. Instead, he picked up the coffee cup in front of him and took a sip. It had gone cold. "I remember when you first got the place," he said, setting the cup down. "You used to send me progress photos, the exposed beams that busted fireplace. You turned into a reading nook." I said nothing. "You were proud of it," he said quietly. "I was proud of you too, I just never said it." "Why not?" "I don't know." He admitted it was easier to let Camilla take the lead. "She talks louder, gets people on her side." "That doesn't make her right." He nodded. "I know that now." I reached up and touched the chain around my neck. The old key to the house hung from it, the edges smoothed from years of handling. I slipped it off and placed it on the table. "This house isn't just where I live, Jake. It's where I've healed. It's where I've built something real, and they're trying to rip it away with signatures and lies." He looked at the key, then back at me. His jaw tightened. "What do you need from me?" "Support your voice. If you speak up, they'll listen. Maybe not right away, but eventually." He looked down at the folder again, then nodded. "I'll help," he said. "I don't know how yet, but I'll be on your side. Even if it means going against them." He hesitated, but not for long, even then. I picked up the key and slipped it back around my neck. Outside, the sky was starting to lighten, the first hints of morning burning through the clouds. Jake reached for the folder again, this time with purpose. "Let's start here," he said. And for the first time in days, I felt like I wasn't standing alone. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the comforting kind, the kind that stretches too long, too flat, the kind that makes your skin tighten before your mind catches up. It was still early when I stepped out to the porch. The street was empty. A sharp wind cut through the trees, and then I saw the car. The driver's side window was gone. Shattered glass glinted across the seat like frost. Inside, resting against the torn upholstery, was a rock. Not just a rock, a message. Wrapped around it was a folded scrap of notebook paper, torn edges ink smudged like it had been written fast. "Back off while you still can." I didn't touch it, just stood there breathing. The air felt thinner somehow. Every sound more distant. I could still hear the rustle of leaves, a neighbor's wind chime 2 doors down, my heart steady but too loud in my chest. I stepped back inside and locked the door behind me. Then I called the police. The officer was polite. Young wore gloves as he picked up the rock and bagged the note. He took photos, jotted things down on a clipboard, asked if I had any enemies. I gave him names, quietly, clearly. After he left, I stood at the window watching the light shift across the floor. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just kept seeing the rock sitting there bold and crude like someone had aimed it at the center of my resolve and missed. An hour later, Daniel showed up. No warning. Just walked through the gate with his hands in his pockets, his expression dark. I heard he said, "How?" Camilla called Mom, told her things were getting out of hand. His mouth twisted. She sounded nervous. "She should be," I said. Daniel looked over at the car, then at the rock now sealed in a bag on the kitchen counter. He didn't ask what it said. He didn't need to. Emma came next, sweater half-buttoned laptop bag slung over her shoulder. "Already ordered the cameras," she said. "They'll be here by tomorrow morning. I'll help you install them." We didn't say much after that, just worked. By nightfall, we had every angle covered. The front porch, the driveway, the back garden. I watched the feed on my laptop as the cameras came online, one by one, casting soft, artificial light across the borders of my world. Later, Emma made tea. Daniel tightened the screws on the last camera mount. We sat in the living room without turning the TV on. The house felt different now, not broken, not fragile. Protected. "This isn't going to stop," Emma said quietly. "I know," I replied. "You scared?" "Yes, but it's not bigger than what I'm fighting for." Daniel looked at me, then nodded once. "Then we don't stop either." That night, I walked the perimeter of the house alone. The security lights flicked on as I moved past each window. The glass I'd repaired myself gleamed clean in the glow. Everything that had happened was still happening. The house was still under threat. The people I loved had turned against me. My name was still absent from the contracts they waved like truth. But something had changed. They wanted me afraid. They wanted me to feel small. Instead, I felt still focused. I stood on the back porch for a long time, arms folded, watching the lavender sway in the breeze. A broken window can be replaced. A threat answered. But this house, this ground, this life I built, they'll have to do a lot more than throw a rock to take that from me. The office smelled like dry paper and stale coffee, like a place where truth waited on shelves in silence. Marcus Bell, senior case analyst at the zoning department, sat across from us, flipping through the folder Emma had handed over. Daniel leaned against the far wall, arms crossed, but quiet, while Emma tapped her pen slowly against her notebook, waiting. I sat still, hands in my lap, watching Marcus as he read. His brows knit. He flipped a page back then forward again. And then he sighed. "This," he said, holding up one document was submitted 3 weeks ago as part of the Willow Heights redevelopment package. It claims to have been notarized by an Elizabeth Sterling. He looked up. "That name mean anything to you?" I nodded. "That's Camilla's mother. She retired 2 years ago." He nodded once, like he already knew that, but needed me to say it. "Her notary license expired 18 months ago. The seal on this page, it's invalid, and that means the entire submission package is compromised." Emma leaned forward. "Can you verify that with your department's legal division?" "I already have," Marcus said. He reached into a separate folder and pulled out an official-looking report stamped with the city's legal department insignia. "We flagged the file this morning after a matching complaint was logged anonymously through our digital portal." I glanced at Emma, then at Daniel. "I didn't file anything yet," I said. "No," Marcus replied, "but someone else did." The door behind us opened. Lena Harper stepped inside, shoulders straight, her black coat still flecked with spring rain. She gave me a nod, then turned toward Marcus. "I'm the one who flagged it," she said calmly, "and I brought something else." She handed him a USB drive. "There's an audio file on it. My brother Max and Camilla talking about the plan. They didn't know I was in the next room. I recorded it on my phone and transferred it to the drive." Marcus accepted it without comment and turned to his computer. A few clicks later, the room filled with quiet static and then voices. First Max's clear and certain. "She won't see it coming. Her permits were all filed, but the notary we're using will override that. The house will look like a legal mess on paper." Then Camilla laughing lightly. And after the engagement party, nobody will question it. She'll be out. Her name's not even on the deed." The recording ended. No one spoke for a moment. Then Marcus said, "This changes everything." Emma jotted something down in her notes. Daniel let out a low breath. Lena didn't move, just kept her eyes on the floor. "They planned the whole thing," I said, "and they used forged documents to do it." Marcus nodded. "The city will open an investigation into both the notary forgery and the development plan. We'll place a hold on any further action tied to the Willow Heights project until this is resolved." "What about my parents?" I asked. "They signed off on some of the early documents, or so I was told." He turned to another page. "The signatures are scanned. Copies, you can tell by the distortion pattern here." He pointed. "They didn't sign anything directly. Whoever submitted this probably used old tax filings or loan paperwork to lift their names." "So they were used," Daniel said quietly. "Same as Grace." Marcus slid the folder back across the table. "You have more than enough to protect your claim and likely to file suit." I took the folder without speaking. Outside, the sky had turned a low shade of gray. Emma and I walked to the car together, Lena trailing behind. At the edge of the lot, Lena stopped. "There's more," she said softly. "Max hasn't just done this once. Willow Heights is one of 3 planned demolitions where permits were filed under questionable notary claims." I blinked. "Why are you telling me this?" She looked me in the eye. "Because I believed him once I let a lot slide. But seeing what they did to you, someone who built something with her own hands, it made me realize what I've been part of." I nodded. "Then help us finish this." Lena reached into her coat pocket and handed me another drive. "All project blueprints, emails, contracts, internal memos. You'll want to make copies." That night, Emma and I laid everything out on the dining table. We labeled folders, cross-referenced signatures, backed up drives. The house was quiet, the kind of silence that came not from fear, but from work being done. It didn't feel like a storm anymore. It felt like structure, like truth beginning to take shape. We didn't toast, we didn't celebrate. But as I watched Emma line up the final set of scanned permits next to Lena's file, I felt something shift. We weren't gathering evidence anymore. We were preparing for the reckoning. The Bellevue Grand shimmered under chandeliers, and low jazz waiters moved like clockwork, weaving through clusters of guests in satin and silk champagne flutes lifted delicately between fingers. Everything gleamed. Every edge was softened, a perfect stage. And I walked straight into it. My heels tapped calmly across the marble floor as I entered the ballroom. The invitation Lena had given me still tucked into my clutch, never once asked for. No one noticed at first. Or maybe they did, but assumed I was someone's +1. I made my way toward the center, past white roses and gilded chairs, past the display of engagement photos near the ice sculpture in the shape of the letter H. Camilla stood under a canopy of glass lights, a vision in white. Max was beside her, nodding as a gray-haired man in a navy suit handed him a champagne toast. They didn't see me until I wanted them to. I picked up a glass of wine from the nearest tray, stepped into the light, and tapped it gently with the side of a pen. 3 soft clinks, just enough. The room paused. A few heads turned, then more. The music slipped away, fading beneath the tension that now hovered like fog. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "Good evening. I apologize for the interruption." Camilla froze. Max's arm dropped. "My name is Grace Langford. You may not know me, but you should know my house. It's featured in the blueprints Max Harper and his team submitted to the city under the name Willow Heights." A murmur rippled through the room. The name had weight. It had money tied to it. I walked toward the small stage by the dessert table, unzipped my bag, and pulled out the USB Emma had labeled the night before. Lena waited beside the projector, already positioned, already ready. "Let's start with something simple," I said, "a conversation." The screen flickered to life. Max's voice filled the room. "She won't see it coming. Her permits were filed, but the notary we're using will override that. The house will look like a legal mess on paper." Then Camilla casual laughing. "And after the engagement party, nobody will question it. She'll be out. Her name's not even on the deed." The room went still. A hand dropped a champagne glass. The shatter was small. The silence that followed wasn't. I turned to face them. That house is mine, and the permits they tried to fake. Already verified, the notary stamp belongs to a woman who retired years ago, Camila's mother. Max took a step forward. Grace, we can talk about this privately. I looked at him slow and steady. You already had your chance. A new image appeared on screen. The blueprint, Willow Heights, 4 luxury units. My name in fine print, labeled as former occupant. Lena stepped forward clear and calm. The signatures on the land survey were forged using scanned tax forms. This was never a legal transfer. It was a scheme. Camilla turned to her stunned, You betrayed us. No, Lena replied. I finally told the truth. At that moment, the ballroom doors opened. 2 plainclothes officers stepped inside. One of them approached Camilla, the other moving toward Max. Camilla Sterling, you are under investigation for document forgery and conspiracy to commit fraud. We ask that you come with us to answer a few questions. Camilla's voice rose desperate now. You don't understand. This was about the family. It was about investment. But no one looked at her. Investors were already stepping back. The gray-haired man who had toasted Max minutes before now folded the blueprint and tucked it under his arm, silent and grim. Max didn't speak. Camilla turned toward me one last time, her voice sharp. You'll regret this. You just humiliated your entire family. I stepped off the stage, the USB now back in my bag, the wine glass untouched in my hand. No, I said quietly. You did that when you decided I didn't deserve what I built. The officers led her toward the door. One of them paused, speaking into his walkie. And just like that, the storm they created collapsed in on itself. Lena came to stand beside me. It's done, she said. I nodded once the string of pearls around my neck cool against my collarbone. Not quite, I said, but it will be soon. The first signs of spring crept into Willow Street like a secret. A blush of green on the trees. The sound of wind shaking loose the last brittle leaves. The air carried that in-between scent, earth memory, and the promise of something growing again. It had been 6 weeks since the engagement party. 6 weeks since the house was almost lost, and I stood under chandeliers with a USB in my pocket and the truth at my back. Now things are quiet again. Not empty, not cold. Just quiet the way it feels when the noise has settled and what remains is real. I'm on my knees in the garden-gloved hands deep in the soil. Daniel's just behind me, pressing a new row of lavender starts into the dirt. He works slowly, methodically, the same way Dad used to plant tomatoes when we were kids. We don't talk much, we don't need to. Sometimes the healing begins before the apology. Across the yard, Emma leans against the porch railing, sketching a new layout for the front flower beds. She brought over a box of peony bulbs last week. Said we should try something different this year. Lavender's tradition, she said, but even tradition can grow. The old fence, once weather-worn and grayed, now stands freshly painted. The cracks are filled, the slats reinforced. Lena helped us finish it last weekend, showing up with donuts and a bag of tools she hadn't used in years. Her heritage fund was approved just 2 days ago. Local papers picked it up under the headline, Preserving the Past, Planting the Future. The Langford House. My house will be the first property listed on their new protection registry. A bronze plaque arrived this morning. It rests beside me in the grass, cool and heavy in the early light. Still wrapped, but I know exactly where it will hang. Later, I find my mother waiting on the porch. She's holding a small box. I found this in your grandmother's things. She says it used to sit on her dresser. Inside is a worn wooden comb. Simple smooth from years of use. She used it to brush my hair, Mom says softly. I'd forgotten how that felt. I don't say anything right away. I take the box and run my thumb along the edge of the comb. It smells faintly of cedar and old perfume. I never knew she kept this, I say. She never threw anything away that meant something, my mother replies. Her voice trembles just slightly. Not people, not memories. We don't hug, we don't cry, but she places a hand on my arm and leaves it there for a long moment. And that's enough for now. Max reached out last week. Not with an apology, he said he knew better than to ask for forgiveness, but with an offer to fund Lena's preservation project. Quietly, no press, no strings. I want to support what matters, he told her. I haven't seen Camilla since that night. She didn't fight the investigation, signed what she needed to paid what the courts required, then disappeared her number no longer in service. The space she left behind didn't feel like a hole. It felt like air finally moving through a sealed room. That evening, I walked the perimeter of the house. The cameras are still installed, but I don't check them anymore. I trust the silence now. The lavender rose catch the last of the light, casting long shadows across the beds. I press the bronze plaque into place beside the front gate. It reads, "The Langford House Preserved 2025, a home reclaimed." I run my fingers over the lettering, not because I need to, just because I want to feel it. Then I step onto the porch and sit in the same spot where I used to drink coffee on weekends, watching the neighborhood move and change around me. The sun dips low, bathing the trees in gold. Across the street, a child rides a bike with one training wheel bent. I close my eyes. There are no voices in the back of my mind, no doubt circling, no anger waiting to rise. Only stillness. Only peace. I am home. And no one will ever take it from me again. The air is different now. I sit on the front steps with bare feet pressed to the warm wood, the same steps I sanded by hand that first summer. The lavender moves in waves beside the walkway, slow and steady like breath. Somewhere down the street, wind chimes stir soft and familiar. This house was once a ruin. Broken windows, buckled floors, empty rooms that echoed more than they spoke. I didn't know then that it would become my witness, my test, my proof. I thought I was just fixing a roof, mending walls, repainting a future. But what I was really building was myself. They tried to take it from me. Told me I didn't own what I built, said my name wasn't on the right paper, that my place in the story was optional, negotiable, temporary. But I knew better. I had the records. I had the truth. I had the memory of every nail driven, every corner cleaned, every late night spent holding this place together with more will than sleep. And when they came for it, I stood. Not screaming, not shaking. Just still. Because stillness has its own power. Now the house is more than a shelter. It's a boundary I drew and kept. A story I wrote and defended. And for the first time in a long time, I am not waiting to be seen. I am not hoping to be chosen. I belong here, on this porch in this life with the people who stayed. I didn't just keep my home, I reclaimed it, and in doing that, I reclaimed myself. What about you? Have you ever had to fight for what was already yours? Share your story. Someone out there needs to hear it.